Team-based co-op games like Left 4 Dead have always had a place in the heart of the gaming community. But what happens when you take the Left 4 Dead game formula and inject it into the gritty fantasy world of Warhammer?
Nice.
We're the Bullet Sponges, and we are back with another Play or Pass, where we jump into co-op and multiplayer games and give you our thoughts on whether they're worth playing or not worth your time. And if you feel like joining myself and Nex for more co-op reviews and Let's Plays, feel free to subscribe and sit back each week as we review and play through all sorts of different titles. Warhammer Vermintide 2 was originally released in 2018, with PC Gamer calling it the best co-op game of the year. The first-person action game takes place within the Warhammer fantasy universe, where you as a player choose from 5 playable heroes, each with their own unique weapons and abilities. And with your chosen hero, you join friends to hack, slash and blast your way through the army of chaos and a race of humanoid rats called Skaven. Against this enemy and in your team of 4, you have to make your way through the twisting maps, enemy hordes, puzzles and boss fights of 13 different missions. And in return, you're rewarded with new loot and experience to level up your chosen fighter. Vermintide 2 has been around for a few years now, but with the recent content updates and the promotion the game's had, we jumped in 2021 to let you know if the game is a play or a pass.
For a franchise so rich in lore and fantasy, playing Vermintide 2 really made us ask, why don't you see games based on the Warhammer universe pumped out at every opportunity? The game is clearly a deliberate attempt to take what made the original, which was a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead 2, and build on its success by developing new core features of its own. To start, Fat Shark were able to create really immersive surroundings, which is no surprise given the source material they get to work with. Graphics are decent, not cutting edge, but where it lacks in detail it kind of adds to the grit of the landscape. That being said, it's not without its picturesque environments either, the variety of which makes the game more appealing than if it was just based on a barren landscape the whole time. Additionally, the audio is fantastic. The characters describe the environment around you, bolstering player awareness seamlessly. It also helps telegraph the action, making a distinctive sound when you're about to be rushed by a horde or any of the individual special enemies.
Don't like this music at all. Oh god, here we go. Nice.
Your team comprises 4 of the 5 selectable heroes, where no 2 players can play the same one. And this was a shame as Bias and myself both lunged for the cool looking dwarf. And if your pals aren't available, or you want a turn as the dwarf, then the missing slots are filled with AI, who seem to be incredibly strong companions to have by your side. The premise of the game is to get through 13 missions divided into 3 acts, each mission littered with an interesting variety of enemies and objectives. You'll need to play through these missions and defeat the boss of each act in order to take on the final boss mission. All players start at the keep. When partying up, you'll all join the same instance, and it is here you'll essentially manage everything outside of just splitting skulls, like selecting missions and characters, as well as crafting equipment and customizing your character. The missions themselves are fairly linear, there's no confusion on where to go next or what to do, just non-stop fluid action. This is helped by the brilliant scripting of the characters, often verifying that you're going the right way, but also hinted at by just chasing down every enemy you see. Although each hero may feel strong enough to take on every enemy, there are a few aspects that will ensure the team stays together. Firstly, periodic hordes can overwhelm a player quite quickly, especially on harder difficulties. And secondly, there is a really varied range of special enemies that, if left unchecked, are capable of taking down members of your team themselves. Combat mechanics for melee use light and heavy attacks, a pushback, and a block, and for range is generally fire a projectile in either aim or alternative fire. One aspect worth considering to improve would be taking note of the options that your light and heavy attacks give you. With this weapon, for example, you get 2 AoE slashes and a stab. Therefore, it's worth cancelling that combo on the 3rd attack when facing an enemy horde, so you can focus on AoE. The opposite is true for this weapon, which when charged is a huge AoE swing, but the normal attack is better suited for single heavy units. Movement is responsive and jumping to the side or backwards is replaced with a dodge, a skill highly impactful with melee fights in mind. While chasing down the main objectives, there are a few things to look out for. You might find a load of collectibles along the main route or often hidden along side paths, meaning if you spend the time to search the map you can collect more. Each one collected will increase the quality of your end mission reward and grant extra XP. The 5 characters offer really individual playstyles, each with their own combinations of weaponry, but new to this sequel is the addition of careers, adding 2 new unique builds and setups to each existing character, unlocked at level 7 and 12, and 1 additional paid DLC career path, a few of which are presumably still in the works. The differences between these choices are the passive ability, skill, perks and weapon options, which drastically change the way each one is played. For example, Marcus Kruber is a heavy plate wearing fighter that acts as a frontliner with high HP. His skill grants allies temporary health and staggers nearby enemies. At level 7 you unlock one of his careers, the Huntsman, turning him into a ranger. He has lower HP, passively recovers 1 ammo for every headshot, and his skill allows him to go invisible for 6 seconds with a range of benefits during its use. Although locked into specific characters, the weapons available range across your whole medieval arsenal, as well as some magical elements tied in, so it's worth taking a look around to see what might suit you the most. You get 3 item slots, 1 for healing, 1 for potion buffs and 1 for bombs, allowing you to only carry 1 of each at a time. This restriction adds a strategy element, particularly at higher difficulties, on when you should use them to be most effective. Finally, to round off the customization, each character has access to a talent tree, where they can pick from 1 of 3 options every 5 levels up to 30. The talents range from increasing headshot damage by 50% to reduce cooldown on your hero ability. Your progression is formed in 2 ways. One is character level, with each character having separate XP bars allowing you to unlock new career paths and traits for that character. And the second is hero power, based on the cumulative power of your weapons and accessories. This affects things like the damage you deal, as well as the number of enemies you can strike with an AoE attack. There are 3 accessory slots increasing damage with interesting modifiers like damage or damage reduction versus certain enemy types. Your equipment will be upgraded from loot chests earned through completing missions, crafting, quests and challenges found in the keep, or playing heroic deeds that set specific rules to be played within a mission, and if completed, rewards the party. The great thing about all these loot chests is the rewards scale with the highest items you have across all your characters, so you have continuous improvement of your hero power regardless of who you're playing with. If all this wasn't enough, there was a recent huge update adding a roguelite mode, which has doubled the playable space due to the 15 new maps that came with it. Here you start with your basic character and upgrade them as you progress, similar to the likes of the popular Slay the Spire. Vermintide has a cosmetics store that isn't game-breaking in any way. You can buy skins for currency earned in-game, and some with real money. None of it was particularly appealing to me, but it's there if you want to add that bit of pizzazz to your character. For a game that uses melee as one of its core experiences, the hitboxes are far from perfect, and mechanics not as deep as most melee-oriented games. None of it, however, seems to detract from the satisfaction of cleaving through your enemies. I think this is because the intention isn't for highly mechanical fights, but more to have that movie experience of downing hundreds of enemies. I'd even argue if it had these properties, it might have been a lesser experience.
Warhammer Vermintide 2 has taken a co-op PvE formula and created a hugely entertaining and well put together game. The atmosphere created by the sounds and visuals really draws you in, whether it's the details of popping a rat's head with your hammer, or the distant chattering of hundreds of enemies as a horde is descending on your position, letting you know that at any moment you're going to have to stand back to back with your team and fight for your life. The combat in Vermintide 2 is equally enjoyable, and as a dwarf player I had a massive amount of fun after learning I could power up my swings, and then using this to sweep the map clear of enemy bodies. All of the melee weapons we used felt great, the ranged weapons felt equally satisfying, and the selection of different weapons mean that you have a lot to choose from to find something that works for you. If you've played the game, let us know in the comments what your favourite weapon is, and why it's the two-handed hammer. The only real downside we saw to this game is that long sessions do feel a bit repetitive, and after playing more than about 2 hours I wanted to leave it for the day and come back later. Although I do feel the same about games like Left 4 Dead, so maybe it's just me. Overall we gave Warhammer Vermintide 2 a 4 out of 5. And if you're looking for an easygoing co-op game to jump in with your friends, and you enjoy a bit of hack and slash, this might just be the game for you. Let us know in the comments what you think of the game or whether or not you agree with our review. We're the Bullet Sponges and we will see you in the next one.